Hi there, my name is King Martin. People know me as Arch on Warcraft, and here we are with Gorefiend in the Hellfire Citadel on heroic difficulty as it currently stands in the PTR. Now, this fight is a little bit of a clusterfuck. Unfortunately, the people I was doing it with weren't very organised, and they were pretty all over the place, so we weren't able to actually get as far through this fight as I would have liked to, but it gave me enough of an insight into it to be able to give you a good idea as to what's actually going to be happening in this fight. So to start off with, Gorefiend is swimming in his little pool. He doesn't ever come out of that, so it's similar to Crowmonk. You're going to be tanking him where he stands. And he has several abilities. I'll go over his baseline abilities before we go over the sort of interesting mechanic of the fight. So first of all, he will do an ability called Touch of Doom. Now, I'd say it's best that everybody probably stays grouped up fairly central in the room, and then that gives you sort of space to play with the abilities that he puts out. First of all, for instance, you've got Touch of Doom. He'll cast that on a random player or 2 or 3 players depending on the group size, and you've got maybe 5-10 seconds to get away. When this expires, it will explode, dealing damage to everybody in the raid. Further you are away from the raid, the less damage the raid will take, but the most important part to this is it will leave behind a doom well on the floor, which is just a shadowy patch on the floor. It's fairly significant in size, but this will tick for about 110,000 damage every half a second if you're standing in it. And we couldn't actually see, I don't know whether it's just we weren't alive long enough to see how long these actually lasted, but they seem to last for a substantial amount of time. And considering the small size of the room you already have to play with, you're going to start running out of room if you don't place these strategically. So you want to bear in mind that obviously when they're placed, you are considered the centre of the radius. So you want to stand right next to an old doomer that's already landed, and you'll start overlaying them. So that is the best thing I can suggest, is get right to the edge, drop it down, and then just start dropping them all the way around the edge of the room. And then hopefully they do despawn, and then you can just start all the way back at the beginning if you run out of room, or otherwise you're just gonna really run out of space. We'll have to see. Another ability is called Shared Fate. Now this is a good reason why you will kind of want to be fairly grouped up. He will target 3 players. One of those players will be rooted on the spot, can't move. 2 other players will be linked to that player, and there'll be a big blue beam between the rooted player and the other 2 players. And all 3 players will continually take ticking damage until all 3 of you are within 5 yards of each other. So the 2 people that aren't rooted have to get to the rooted player as fast as they can, which is why it probably makes sense for everybody to be grouped up in the middle. Surging Shadows. Now this is a debuff that's placed on 1, 2, I'm not sure how many players, where it basically just deals AoE damage to anybody within sort of 5, 6, 7 yards. So if you get the debuff, just run away, get out of the group, and it'll be fine. And finally, Crushing Darkness. Now this is a sort of room ability where he'll throw out big purple swells which will spawn in kind of a 6, the shape of like a 6, a very loose swirl. Very, very easy to dodge. Very easy to dodge. As long as you've got the space for it, then it's very incredibly easy to dodge this ability. So you shouldn't really be getting hit by this, but it does do a substantial amount of damage, so you do want to avoid getting hit by it at all costs. There is another ability he does called Feast of Souls, where he'll regenerate energy over a minute, inflicting sort of 50,000 damage every 2 seconds, so just needs some light group healing. But while he's doing this, he'll suck in all of the ads that are out, which increases energy by 10. But while this is happening, he will be taking 100% increased energy. 100% increased damage taken. So it looks like the ads which are out, you want to make sure they're dead so that he can feast on as few as possible, so you have as long a duration of this debuff on him as possible to be able to maximize damage done to the boss. So you'd want to make sure the ads go down anyway, because I'll explain about those in a second, how deadly they can be. So They're all of his abilities, with the exception of Shadow of Death. Now, if this marks you after about 5 seconds or so, the text says that it kills you, but it doesn't kill you. It just transports you into his belly, which is what happens if you die. If you die in this fight, you don't die, you just get transported into his belly because he eats your soul. Now, when you're inside of him, you have 40 seconds before you will be consumed or devoured. After 40 seconds, you'll die, unless you run into the middle of his stomach. If you run into the middle of his stomach, you'll be spat back out and you'll be alive again. Now, you can't just think, oh, that's fine, it means I can never die. If I die, just run into the circle and then get out. After you've been spat out, you will have a debuff and you won't be able to be consumed again. I didn't see whether this was a duration or not, so it might be a case of you can be consumed again after a while, or it might be a case of that's it, only once per fight. But I'm pretty sure I went into the stomach more than once in a fight, so I think it might have a duration. Now, when you're inside of him, there's 3 types of enemies. I could only actually see 2, so I don't know whether the third enemy is a tanking enemy, but I imagine a tank won't ever get devoured, but maybe they do. I don't play a tank, and unfortunately the people that I was tanking with weren't people I know, so I couldn't actually talk to them about it and get any feedback from them. So it might be there's a third enemy in there for tanks to take care of, so just be aware of that. But there's 3 enemies in there. There's shadowy constructs, shadowy essences, and apparently enraged spirits. Now, the shadowy construct is the DPS's target. They will start at the edge of the room and they'll walk towards the middle, and you need to kill them. The shadowy essences, they will start at the edge of the room and walk towards the middle, and they will have low health and they need to be healed up. So there's the healer's target. And the enraged spirits, looking at the dungeon journal and the abilities they do, it looks to be a tank's sort of target. But like I said, I can't vouch for that because I haven't seen it and I didn't have anybody to be able to tell me about it. So you're just going to kind of have to go and discover those for yourself. Now, what happens with these is if they make it to the middle of the room and they're not dead or they're not fully healed, they will then be spat out and they will then join the rest of the raid on the normal platform. Now, ideally, you want to either kill them inside or at least bring them as low as possible before they come out, because these can be a real pain when they're out with the rest of the raid. I'm pretty sure with the healers it's a case of reverse, so if you heal them to 90% they're going to come out with 10%, if you heal them to 50% they're going to come out with 50%, so it's going to be the polar opposite. Now, when they're out there, the 3 enemies do 3 different things. The constructs, they will fixate on a player and they will continually walk towards them. They can't be stunned, they can't be slowed, they can't do anything, they can't be crowd controlled at all. They have to just be killed, which is why you need to get them as low as possible before they come out. If they reach the player, they will explode for a shit ton of damage. They will most probably kill whoever it is they are targeting. So they have to be killed as soon as they can. The shadowy essences, the healer's priority, they will come out and they will just start casting a spirit barrage, which will just nuke everybody for a fuck ton of damage. This can be interrupted. It's a fairly long cast and it has to be interrupted. But of course, they also need to be killed as soon as you can. And then finally, the enraged spirits, when they come out as a big enemy which needs to be tanked. It's got an ability which it casts which needs to be interrupted because it gives it 300% increased physical damage. So that must be interrupted and it must be killed. So basically, when the ads are up, they are number 1 priority. As soon as an ad up, it has to die. And then if there's no enemies up, then by all means, feel free to DPS the boss. And this, if you keep good ad control, then you're going to find you're going to be able to maximize the Feast of Souls, and you're going to get the full 1 minute duration to be able to do 100% increased damage to the boss and really take a good substantial chunk out of his health. So it's quite hectic because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of ad management. There's a case of people having to run out of the group and drop wells everywhere and the likes. It did seem a lot harder than Deadeye, But I do kind of think that was probably because the people I was with wasn't as organised as they were as the people I was with on Deadeye. So that's pretty much everything there is to the fight. I'm sure there's probably maybe one or two tank mechanics I missed out on, unfortunately, because I didn't have a reliable tank to feed back that information to me. So by all means, if you are a tank and you have some feedback, then drop it in the comments below. Let me know and let everybody know what to look out for as a tank. But other than that, it's just a case of if everybody's organised, everybody drops the wells in the correct place, nobody gets hit by the crushing darkness, and you kill the ads on time, then it shouldn't be too hard. So I hope this helped. Give us a like if it did. Drop a comment if you've got any feedback or any questions, and if you haven't subscribed, then go ahead. We will be covering as much of the PTR bosses as I can. Sometimes they're either broken or raiding kind of gets in the way and I won't be able to, but I will be putting out as many as possible. Warlock guides to come as and when they change. So ciao for now, and I'll see you in the next video.